The year was 1999. Michael Fischer had passed away at 84 in a nursing home. After his death, a nursing home staff member cleaning his room found an old white envelope, yellowed with time, in the bottom drawer of his desk. On the envelope it read, "Michael, please read this." Inside was a letter from 54 years earlier, from Anna Bergmann, the woman he loved but devastated. The first lines read, "I forgive you." Michael had never opened this letter. He chose to live with guilt, refusing to read the words that could have set him free. This is about forgiveness offered but never accepted, about some people choosing punishment over salvation. We're about to hear the true story of how sometimes the cruelest thing you can do to yourself is refuse to open an envelope. Let's begin. In May 1938, you need to understand what Germany was like. The Nazi regime had been in power for 5 years. The country was preparing for war, but most ordinary people didn't know it yet. Life in small towns continued with a strange normalcy. People went to work, fell in love, made plans, tried to show that everything was fine. Anna Bergmann was 28 years old, teaching in a village near Munich. She taught arithmetic and reading to children aged 6 to 10. Before the regime tightened control, she had been training to become a university professor, but those opportunities had closed. So she taught children and tried not to think too much about the future. Michael Fischer was 30 years old, working as a clerk in the local government office, dealing with property records and civil documents. He was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of man who spent his evenings reading philosophy and writing in his journals. He had briefly studied theology, but decided the priesthood wasn't for him. In May 1938, they met at a community dance. Michael normally wouldn't attend such things, but his friend Hans had dragged him there. Anna was there with her younger sister Emma, who was convinced Anna needed to meet someone. "You can't spend your whole life with books and children," Emma said. "You need a real life too." "I have a real life. Teaching arithmetic isn't a life, it's a job." Michael approached Anna because she was standing alone and looked uncomfortable, and he felt the same way. "Misery loves company. Would you like to dance?" he asked. "I'm warning you, I'm terrible at it." Anna smiled. "I'm worse. We'll be terrible together." They were both right. They stepped on each other's feet, constantly missed the rhythm, laughed at themselves. By the end of the dance, they were friends. By the end of the evening, something more. Anna and Michael's relationship developed slowly, carefully. They were both cautious people who didn't rush. They met for walks along the river, for coffee at the village cafe, to read quietly together. Michael told Anna about his time studying theology. "I wanted to understand God, to find meaning in suffering. But the more I read, the less I understood. Faith seemed to require abandoning reason, and I couldn't do that." "Oh, so what did you find instead?" Anna asked. "Nothing certain, just a belief that we create meaning ourselves. That goodness exists not because God commands it, but because we choose it. That's more faith than most priests have," Anna said. They talked about everything, philosophy, politics, carefully. In 1938, walls had ears, dreams, fears. Michael learned that Anna had wanted to study mathematics at university, but was rejected because women weren't encouraged in academic fields. Anna learned that Michael had lost his mother at a young age, and that his father was a bitter man who drank too much. By Christmas 1938, they were deeply in love. By spring 1939, they were talking about marriage. "When the political situation improves," Michael said, "when things are more stable, I want to give you a proper wedding. A proper life? I don't need proper," Anna said. "I just need you." But Michael insisted on waiting. He wanted everything to be right, perfect, safe, before committing forever. Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939. The war began. The government called it defensive. Necessary, temporary, young men were conscripted. 31-year-old Michael was among them. It'll be over quickly, everyone said. Poland will fall in weeks, maybe months. Then you'll come home. Michael was drafted into the Wehrmacht in October 1939. He had no choice. Refusal meant prison or worse. He left for training, promising Anna he'd return soon, that they'd marry as soon as the war ended. "Wait for me," he said the night before he left. "Always," Anna promised. They didn't formally get engaged. Michael wanted to do it properly, with a ring, with planning, but the promise between them was as binding as any vow. For 5 years, Anna and Michael stayed connected through letters. Michael wrote from Poland, from France, from Russia. He told her about the cold, about missing home, about counting the days until he could return. What he didn't tell her was what he was really doing, what he saw, what he was ordered to do. Anna faithfully wrote back. She told him about school, about her students, about village gossip. She sent her love, her prayers, her promise to wait. "Every day I wake up and think, today could be the day the war ends. Today could be the day you come home. It never is, but I still hope. I think that's what love is. Continuing to hope, even when everything shows hopelessness. I love you, Michael. Come home safe." Michael kept every letter. He carried them through campaigns, through retreats, through the slow collapse of Germany's military ambitions. In December 1944, Germany was losing badly. The Allies were advancing from the west, the Soviets from the east. Michael's unit was in Poland, retreating, desperate, falling apart. On December 12th, Michael's unit passed through a small village. They needed supplies, shelter, whatever they could get. The commanding officer ordered them to search houses, take whatever they needed. Michael entered a house on the edge of the village. Inside, he found a family, a mother, 2 children. They were terrified, pleading in Polish, words Michael barely understood. The commanding officer came in behind him. "Take whatever's useful. Food, blankets, valuables." Michael started searching drawers. The woman was crying, trying to stop him. One of the children, a girl about 8 years old, grabbed his arm. Then what happened? Michael could never fully explain. He pushed the child away, harder than he meant to. The child fell, hit her head on the corner of the table. There was so much blood. The child died. Right there, while Michael stood frozen, while the mother screamed, while the commanding officer yelled at him that they needed to leave, to move, to keep going. Michael left that house covered in a child's blood. They kept walking. No one mentioned it again. Just another tragedy in a war full of tragedies. But Michael couldn't forget the child's face, the sound the mother made, the blood on his hands, on his uniform, in his nightmares. Michael stopped writing to Anna in January. He couldn't. Every time he tried to write, "I love you," or "I miss you," or anything normal, all he saw was that child's face. He was a murderer. He had killed a child, not in combat, not in self-defense, just through carelessness, through brutality, through being part of a machine that destroyed everything it touched. How could he return to Anna? How could he marry her? Have children with her? Knowing what he'd done, how could he touch her with hands that had pushed a child to her death? Hans, his friend from the village in the same unit, found him sitting alone one night, not eating. "You need to write to Anna," Hans said. "She'll worry." "I can't." "Michael, what happened in that village was an accident, a horrible accident, but not murder. A child is dead because of me. That's murder. It's war. Terrible things happen in war. You didn't mean to." "Intent doesn't matter," Michael interrupted. "She's still dead, and I did it." Hans tried to convince him, but Michael was beyond convincing. He had decided he was unforgivable, and that meant he couldn't return to Anna, couldn't marry her, couldn't contaminate her life with his guilt. Anna immediately noticed when Michael's letters stopped. At first, she told herself it was the postal system's fault. Everything was chaotic. Letters were getting lost. But weeks passed with nothing. She wrote to the military, asking about Michael Fischer's status. They told her he was alive, still on duty, no reported injuries, but they couldn't explain why he wasn't writing. Anna wrote increasingly desperate letters. "Michael, are you getting my letters? Please respond. Just a few words so I know you're okay. I'm so worried. Whatever you're facing, we'll get through it together. Just please, write to me." Michael received these letters. He read them, then put them away unread. He couldn't respond. What would he say? "Dear Anna, I killed a child, and I'm no longer worthy of your love." In early March 1945, Michael made a decision. He couldn't face Anna, couldn't go home, couldn't pretend to be the man Anna had fallen in love with. That man had died in a Polish village in December. He wrote her one final letter. "Anna, I'm writing to release you from all the promises we made. Don't wait for me. When the war ends, find someone else. Marry him. Live the life you deserve. I can't give you that life. I'm not the man you remember. The war has changed me in ways I can't explain, and that you wouldn't want to know. This isn't your fault. It's entirely mine. But I can't return to you. I won't. Find happiness without me. Michael." He sent the letter and felt like he'd torn out his heart. Anna received Michael's letter on March 15th. She read it in disbelief. Read it 3 times. He was ending everything. After 6 years, after promises, after everything, he was just ending it. She showed the letter to Emma. "What does this mean? The war changed me. Everyone changes from war. That doesn't mean you abandon the people you love. Maybe he met someone else." Emma said gently. "Maybe that's his way." "No," Anna said firmly. "Not Michael. Something happened. Something terrible. And he thinks it means he can't come home." "Then write back. Make him explain." Anna tried. She wrote letter after letter, begging Michael to tell her the truth, to explain what happened, to let her decide for herself whether it was unforgivable. "Michael, whatever you did, whatever you think happened, I need to know the truth. I need to make my own decision about us. You can't decide for me. Please, tell me what happened. Let me help you carry whatever burden you're carrying." Michael received these letters. He didn't respond. He couldn't. What Anna didn't understand was that Michael wasn't really trying to protect her. He was protecting himself from being tied to a murderer, from living with the stain of what he'd done. On March 28, 1945, Anna wrote one final letter. She had prayed over it, talked to Father Klaus at the village church, searched her heart for what was right. She wrote, "My dearest Michael, I don't know what happened to you during this war. I don't know what you did or what was done to you, but I know this. I love you, not the idealized version of you from before the war, but you, the real, flawed, broken person you are now. Whatever you think happened, whatever you think you did, I forgive you, not because I know the details, because forgiveness doesn't require details. It requires love, and I have that in abundance. Please come home. Please let me love you. Please stop punishing yourself for being human in the most inhumane conditions. I forgive you, Michael. Now you need to forgive yourself. Come home. With all my love, forever. Anna." She put the letter in a white envelope. On it she wrote simply, "Michael, please read this." She sent it to his last known military address, hoping it would reach him before the war ended, before irreversible decisions were made. The letter reached Michael on April 8, 1945. His unit was in full retreat. Germany was clearly losing. Everything was chaos. Mail was still being delivered occasionally. Miraculously, Michael held the envelope in his hands. Anna's handwriting. "Please read this." He knew what it would say. It would say she loved him, tell him to come home, offer him forgiveness he didn't deserve. And if he read it, he might believe it. He might convince himself that what he'd done was forgivable, that he could go home, that he could live a normal life. But the child was still dead. The mother's screams still echoed in his nightmares. His hands were still stained, even though the blood had long been washed away. He put the letter in his pocket, unopened. "I'll read it later." he told himself. When I'm ready, when I figure out what to answer. But later never came. Germany surrendered on May 8th, 1945. Michael survived the war. His unit was captured by American forces in late April, and after 6 weeks in a POW camp, he was released. In June 1945, he returned to his village, thinner, older, devastated. The letter was still in his pocket, unopened. He had carried it through surrender, through the POW camp, through the long journey home. But he still hadn't read it. He told himself he would read it soon, when he settled in, when things calmed down, when he felt ready. Anna heard that Michael had returned. She waited for him to come, to knock on her door, to explain where he'd been and why he stopped writing. He never came. 2 weeks later, Anna went to his apartment. She knocked on the door. Michael answered, and the sight of him broke her heart. He looked 10 years older, his eyes sunken, barely there. "Michael," she said, "I was waiting for you. I know. I'm sorry. I can't." He stopped. "Anna, I meant what I wrote. You should find someone else, someone better." "Did you read my letter?" Anna asked. "The one I sent in March?" Michael's hand unconsciously went to his jacket pocket, where the letter had lived for 2 months. "No." "Why?" "Because I know what it says, and I can't accept it." "You don't know what it says," Anna said, her voice rising. "You didn't read it. How can you reject something you haven't even looked at?" "Because I don't deserve forgiveness," Michael said in a flat voice. "Whatever you wrote, whatever grace you're offering, I don't deserve it. And I won't accept it under false pretenses." "Then tell me the truth," Anna pleaded. "Tell me what happened. Let me understand." "No." Michael's voice was hard. "Anna, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, please let this go. Let me go. Find happiness somewhere else. I can't give it to you, because you're not even trying," Anna said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Because you've decided you're unforgivable without even asking if I forgive you." "I know you forgive me," Michael said quietly. "That's who you are. But I don't forgive myself, and I never will. So please, Anna, go. Find someone worthy of you." Anna looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned and left. She never saw Michael again. Anna tried to move on. She continued teaching, devoted herself to rebuilding the school system in post-war Germany. In 1947, she met a widower named Friedrich with 2 young children. He was kind, stable, uncomplicated. They married in 1948. It was more a practical marriage than a romantic one. Friedrich needed help raising his children. Anna needed a life to replace the one Michael had rejected. They were companions, co-parents, but never quite in love. Anna thought about Michael constantly in the first few years. She wondered if he ever opened her letter. She wondered what his life looked like. She wondered if he was happy, or at least at peace. She never tried to contact him again. He had made his decision. She had to respect it, even though she didn't understand it. Michael lived alone. He had returned to his old job at the government office, kept his head down, continued to exist quietly. He never went out, never married, never let anyone get close. He still carried Anna's letter. He had moved it from his jacket pocket to his desk drawer. Every time he opened the drawer for paper or pens, he saw it. Every day he thought about opening it. And every day he decided, but not today. Hans, his friend who survived the war, tried to talk sense into him in 1948. "Michael, you're punishing yourself for something that happened in the chaos of war. You need to forgive yourself. Move on. Be a little happy. Happiness would be a betrayal of that child," Michael said. "The child is dead," Hans said bluntly. "Your suffering doesn't bring her back, doesn't help her mother, doesn't change anything. All it does is waste your life." "Then my life is wasted," Michael said. "That seems fitting." Hans stopped trying. Anna's marriage to Friedrich was stable, but emotionally distant. They raised his children. Anna never had any of her own, and built a functional household. Friedrich died of a heart attack in 1970. Anna mourned him as a good friend, not as the love of her life. After Friedrich's death, Anna sometimes thought about finding Michael. By then, they were both in their 60s, both alone again. Maybe enough time had passed. Maybe there had been enough healing. But she never did. Something held her back. Pride, maybe, or the thought that Michael had made his decision decades ago and she couldn't make him take it back. She taught until she retired in 1975. At 65, she lived quietly, spent time with Friedrich's children and grandchildren who called her Oma, read books, tended her garden. All things considered, she had a good life. But sometimes at night, she couldn't sleep and thought about that letter. The letter Michael refused to read, not knowing how different their lives could have been if Michael had just opened an envelope. Michael's life was smaller, more limited. He worked until he retired in 1977 at 69. He lived in the same small apartment, maintained the same minimal routine, saw almost no one. The letter moved through the years from his desk drawer to various other places, a paper box, a filing cabinet, eventually back to the desk drawer. Never opened, always sealed. In 1985, on the 40th anniversary of receiving the letter, Michael held it for a long time. He seemed to be making a decision. He even got as far as slipping his finger under the seal, about to open it. But then he stopped. 40 years of guilt. 40 years of self-punishment. What would reading the letter now accomplish? Whatever Anna had written, whatever forgiveness she had offered, accepting it now would mean admitting he'd wasted 40 years. It would mean facing the possibility that all this suffering was unnecessary. That seemed harder than continuing to suffer. He put the letter back without opening it. In his 70s, Michael's health began to fail. Heart problems, diabetes, the usual ailments of age and loneliness developed. In 1995, at 80, when it became clear he could no longer care for himself, he moved to a nursing home. He brought very little with him: a few clothes, a few books, and a white envelope that read, "Michael, please read this." At the nursing home, Michael remained quiet, polite, alone. The nurses saw him as sad, but not self-harming. He sat in his room, looked out the window, occasionally read, someone going through the motions of living rather than actually living. Other residents tried to befriend him. "Did you fight in the war?" they'd ask. Most had. "Yes," Michael would say. "Where did you serve?" "Poland, France, Russia." "Terrible times," they'd say, and Michael would nod. But he never gave details, never talked about what he saw or did, never mentioned the child in the Polish village or the woman who waited for him. In 1997, a young priest named Father Martin began visiting the nursing home regularly. He would sit with residents, pray with them, hear their confessions. Michael avoided him for months. But in early 1999, when Michael was 83 and knew he was dying of heart failure, he asked to speak with Father Martin. "I need to confess something," Michael said, "but I'm not sure confession will help." "Tell me anyway," Father Martin said gently. Michael told him everything: the village in Poland, the child, the blood, the letter from Anna that he never opened. Carrying the guilt like a stone for 54 years, he told it all. "And you never read her letter?" Father Martin asked. "No." "Why?" "Because I don't deserve forgiveness." Father Martin was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Do you think your suffering helped that child? Or her mother? Did your 54 years of guilt bring peace to anyone?" "No, but accepting peace felt like a betrayal of them." "What about Anna, the woman who loved you, who offered you forgiveness? Didn't you betray her by refusing to accept it?" Michael had never thought of it that way. "It's not too late," Father Martin said. "The letter is still here. You can read it now." "I'm dying," Michael said. "What would be the point?" "The point would be finally accepting grace, finally allowing yourself to be forgiven, even if it's 54 years late." Michael thought about it, really thought about it. He considered opening the letter for several days, but in the end, he couldn't. The guilt had been with him so long, It felt like part of his identity. Who would he be without it? He told Father Martin, "Tell Anna I'm sorry. If you can find her, tell her that even though I never read the letter, I knew she forgave me, that her forgiveness was real and mattered, even if I couldn't accept it. Tell her I loved her, always. But some things are too broken to be repaired." Father Martin promised he would try to find Anna. Michael Fischer died on August 12, 1999, at 84. The cause of death was heart failure, as was known. He passed peacefully in his sleep. The nursing home staff cleaned out his room. They found very little. Michael had lived an extraordinarily minimal life. But in the desk drawer, they found a white envelope, yellowed with time, dated March 1945. "Should we open it?" one nurse asked. "It's addressed to him," said another. "But he's gone. Maybe there's a return address. Someone we should send it to?" They looked. The return address said A. Bergmann, with an address that no longer existed. Like many German addresses from 1945, it was gone after post-war reconstruction. They gave the letter to Father Martin, along with Michael's few other possessions. Father Martin looked at the envelope. The letter Michael had carried for 54 years and never opened. He did what Michael never could. He opened it. Father Martin read the letter Anna had written in March 1945, offering forgiveness to a man who refused to accept it. "My dearest Michael, I don't know what happened to you during this war. I don't know what you did or what was done to you. But I know this, I love you. Not the idealized version of you from before the war, but you, the real, flawed, broken person you are now. Whatever you think happened, whatever you think you did, I forgive you. Not because I know the details, because forgiveness doesn't require details. It requires love, and I have that in abundance. Please come home. Please let me love you. Please stop punishing yourself for being human in the most inhumane conditions. I forgive you, Michael. Now you need to forgive yourself. Come home. With all my love, forever. Anna." Father Martin sat in his office, holding this 54-year-old letter, and wept. For Michael, who chose to reject the grace offered to him. For Anna, whose forgiveness was rejected even unread. For all the years both of them lost because Michael couldn't forgive himself. Father Martin had promised to find Anna. He began searching. It took Father Martin 2 weeks to find Anna. She was 82 years old, living in a care facility not far from the nursing home where Michael had died. The irony wasn't lost on Father Martin. They had lived 15 kilometers apart for the last 4 years of Michael's life and never knew. He called the facility and said he wanted to visit Anna Bergmann. "I have information about Michael Fischer," he explained. Anna's voice, when she came to the phone, was old but still strong. "Michael? Is he alive?" "No, I'm sorry. He died 2 weeks ago. But he asked me to speak with you." Anna was silent for a moment. "Come tomorrow, 2 o'clock. Father Martin met Anna in the garden of the care facility. She was small, white-haired, with eyes that had seen much. But there was a strength in her that struck him. "Tell me about Michael," Anna said without preamble. Father Martin told her everything. Michael's confession, the child in Poland, the guilt that consumed him for 54 years, the letter he carried but never opened. Then he gave her the unopened envelope, still sealed after 54 years. He never read it, Father Martin said. He carried it from 1945 to 1999, every day, but he never opened it. He said he knew you forgave him, but he couldn't forgive himself. Anna held the envelope she had sealed 54 years ago. She began to cry quietly. "He carried it," she whispered. 54 years, he kept it. He did. He just couldn't read it. "Did it help?" Anna asked. "All that suffering, did it bring him peace? Did it help that child or her mother?" "No," Father Martin said gently. "Then he wasted his life," Anna said. "And mine. We could have had 54 years together. We could have carried his guilt together, worked through it together, found some kind of peace together. Instead, he chose to suffer alone and made me suffer alone too. She looked at Father Martin. You want to know the cruelest part? I would have married him anyway, even knowing what he did, even knowing about that child, because I loved him. And love means carrying each other's burdens, not refusing to let someone help you. He told me to tell you he always loved you, but not enough. Anna said, he didn't love me enough to let me forgive him. He loved his guilt more than me. Father Martin had no answer to that, because Anna was right. Anna kept the unopened letter. She took it to her room and sat with it for a long time. She thought about opening it, reading her own words from 54 years ago. But what would be the point? She knew what she'd written, and Michael was dead. She'd never know if he read it or not. Instead, she put it in her own desk drawer. 54 years of forgiveness. Rejected but preserved. I forgive you, Michael, she said to the empty room, not for what you did in Poland, but for wasting our lives, for choosing guilt over grace, for dying without ever knowing what I wrote. I forgive you for all of it. But forgiveness didn't erase the grief, didn't bring back the 54 years they'd lost, didn't change the fact that two people who loved each other spent their lives apart because one couldn't accept being forgiven. Anna died in December 2001, 2 years after Michael. She was 84, peaceful, surrounded by Friedrich's children and grandchildren who had loved her. Among her belongings, they found the still sealed white envelope with a note. This letter contains forgiveness offered but never accepted. It represents 54 years of grace rejected, love refused, lives wasted over unnecessary guilt. Keep it as a reminder. When someone offers you forgiveness, read it, accept it. Don't spend your life carrying unopened letters in your pocket. Friedrich's daughter gave the letter to the local historical society, which collected stories about World War II and its aftermath. The still sealed letter, 56 years later, became part of an exhibit about the war's lasting trauma. The exhibit opened in 2002. A display case contained the white envelope with Anna's note, alongside a photograph of Michael from 1945 and a photograph of Anna from the same year. The placard read, "A letter never opened." In March 1945, Anna Bergmann wrote a letter of forgiveness to her fiancé, Michael Fischer, serving in the Wehrmacht. Michael carried this letter for 54 years, but never opened it, choosing guilt over grace. Both died without reconciliation, separated by Michael's inability to forgive himself. The letter remains sealed, a testament to rejected mercy and wasted love. Thousands of people saw the exhibit. Many cried. Many wondered what the letter said. Some argued the letter should be opened, that history deserved to know. But the Historical Society kept it sealed. Anna's note was clear. The letter mattered in its unopened state, in the forgiveness rejected, not in the specific words Anna wrote. You need to understand something about forgiveness. It only works if you accept it. Anna offered Michael grace freely, fully, unconditionally, but Michael couldn't take it because he believed he was unforgivable. And in seeing himself as unforgivable, he made it true. Not because his actions were truly unforgivable, but because he refused forgiveness. He condemned himself to 54 years of unnecessary suffering and condemned Anna to the same. That's what makes this story so tragic. Michael didn't have to carry that guilt. Anna had offered to help him carry it, to share the burden, to walk through the darkness together. But Michael chose to walk alone, and in doing so, he abandoned Anna as thoroughly as if he'd left her for another woman. Some people read this story and feel sympathy for Michael. He was traumatized by war, broken by what he saw and did. His guilt was understandable. But Anna was traumatized by war too. She also lost people, faced hardships, carried burdens. The difference was that she was willing to face those burdens together, while Michael insisted on suffering alone. That's not nobility, that's not sacrifice, that's selfishness in disguise. Michael kept Anna's letter for 54 years, not forgotten in a drawer, but close, present, aware of it every day. Every time he saw it, he chose again not to open it. He chose guilt over grace. He chose suffering over peace. And somewhere, Anna lived with the knowledge that Michael carried her forgiveness, but refused to read it. She married another man, built another life, found another form of happiness. But she never stopped wondering, what if Michael had opened that letter? The white envelope now sits in a museum, in a glass case, still sealed. Visitors read Anna's note, see photographs of two young people who loved each other, and sometimes understand that the cruelest distance isn't physical, but emotional. Michael and Anna lived 15 kilometers apart for the last 4 years of Michael's life, close enough to visit, to reconcile, to spend their final years together. But they never knew. Michael died carrying unopened forgiveness. Anna died having offered grace that was never accepted. The letter is now 59 years old, still sealed. Inside are the words Anna wrote with love, hope, and faith that forgiveness could bridge any distance. Michael never read those words. For 54 years, every day, he chose not to read them. That's the real tragedy. Not that terrible things happened. War is full of terrible things. But that healing was available, freely offered, constantly there, and simply refused. Some people prefer their guilt over freedom. Some people cling to suffering because letting go feels like betraying something. The victim, their own sense of justice, their identity as the person who did that terrible thing. Michael was that person. He became his guilt so completely that accepting forgiveness felt like losing himself. And Anna, she was the person who offered forgiveness and learned that sometimes offering isn't enough. Sometimes people need to accept, and you can't make them. She forgave him twice, once in 1945 and once in 1999, when she learned he died, still refusing grace. The letter in the museum sits sealed, but the forgiveness it contains was real. Whether Michael read it or not, Anna meant it. She offered it freely. That matters, even if Michael couldn't accept it. This story taught me, sometimes love means letting someone carry their burden alone, even when you're willing to help. Sometimes forgiveness goes unaccepted. Sometimes letters stay unopened for 54 years. I think that white envelope is his legacy. Proof that sometimes people punish themselves more comprehensively than any judge or jury could, and that sometimes the person standing between you and peace is yourself. I love you all so much, and I'm curious what you learned from this story. How about we meet in the comments? Take care.